Hello everyone. Welcome back to Chemical Happiness and the Meaning of Life by Yuval Noah Harari, Lesson 2. Let's refresh your memory. In the last class, we learned that human happiness is not controlled by external factors. They are determined by the biochemical elements like hormones and nervous system. Human beings are formatted in such a way that there should not be too much happiness or sadness. Thirdly, people with cheerful disposition remains happy whatever unhappy events happen in their life. People with a sad disposition will remain unhappy whatever good things happen to them. It is the hormones that determine the happiness or misery, not the external stimuli. For brain, the external situations are not important. Remember the example of the farmer and the banker. Now let us move on to the summary of the text in page number 90. We stopped in the last class with Harari's observation that a French farmer who lived in a small hut and a rich banker who lived in his rich house will be equally happy, as the number of hormones secreted by their brain cells will be equal in amount. We are continuing from there. This example, that is the example of the farmer and the banker, this example is not only applicable to personal lives of people. It is true. It is true in case of big social events. Take the case of French Revolution. You might have heard of French Revolution. The common public were unhappy with the corrupt rule of King Louis XVI and Marie Antoinette, and they overthrew the king with the revolution. But this did not change the biochemistry of the French public. They didn't become happy. They complained about the later rulers like Robespierre and Napoleon with equal bitterness as before. But those people who had a cheerful disposition continued to be happy. People think that political revolutions make them happy. But the unchanging biochemistry makes them remain as before. So hope you understood the idea. People with a cheerful disposition will always be happy. People with a sad disposition will always remain happy whatever they do. The reason is that depends upon the biochemistry of the people. Thus, we now realize that the only way by which we can be happy is by manipulating. Manipulating means making changes, manipulating our biochemistry. Thus, without revolutions, we can be happy. See, as an example, Harari says that Prozac is an antidepressant medicine which raises the serotonin levels in our body and thus lifts people out of their depression. You know that depression is treated by medicines. So what really happens is that antidepressant medicines are given. Antidepressant medicines will increase the amount of the serotonin, which will helps them to overcome depression. Happiness begins within is a very meaningful slogan. Money, social status, beautiful houses None of this will bring you happiness. Happiness comes only from serotonin, dopamine, and oxytocin. Now, Harari says about a very famous novel written by Aldous Huxley. It is called Brave New World. It is a dystopian novel. What is a dystopian novel? What is dystopia? See, dystopian novel. A novel which presents an imaginary land where everything is unpleasant. So, it's an imaginary land where everything is bad, everything is unpleasant. It presents an imaginary world where everything is bad. Similarly, there is an opposite to dystopia that is called utopia. Utopia is an imaginary land where everything is good and pleasant. So, Aldous Huxley's very famous book called Brave New World. What does it say? In Aldous Huxley's novel Brave New World, happiness is given supreme importance. Psychiatric drugs are considered more important than police and election in this particular novel. Psychiatric drugs are considered more important. Novel presents each person taking a drug called soma, which makes them happy without harming their productivity. Thus, they avoid wars, revolutions, etc. So, that is about. Harari says that Aldous Huxley's novel presents the idea of biochemistry because the people in the Brave New World are happy. The reason is that they take a kind of medicine called somarasa, which is which makes them happy. Soma is actually an equivalent of somarasa in our Indian mythology. So the main point that we discuss in the last page was that happiness cannot be achieved by waging wars, by bloodsheds, or by conquering lands. It can only be achieved by manipulating human biochemistry. Aldous Huxley's novel Brave New World presents such a situation. Now we are coming to the next page, summary of text in the next page, page number 91. However, there are some people who object to this view. Object to what view? The idea of biochemistry. That is, it is a biochemistry that controls the mind, emotion of people. So Daniel Kahneman, Nobel Prize winner in economics, discovered that there is a paradox in most people's view of life. So what did Mr. Daniel Kahneman observe? He observed that there is a paradox in human life. Paradox means virodhabhasa. We say in Malayalam, virodhabhasa. പരസ്പര വിരുദ്ധമായത് മനസ്സിലാക്കാൻ പ്രയാസമുള്ളത് അതൊക്കെയാണ് പാരഡോക്സ് എന്ന് പറയുന്നത്. So he says that there is a paradox in most people's life. Consider the process of raising a child. Largely, it is not an easy work. Raising a child is not an easy work and can be sometimes unpleasant. But most parents declare that children as their chief source of happiness. So, this seems to say that people do not really know what is good for them. So, an example given by Daniel Kahneman is that mostly raising a child is a very difficult task. However, most parents declare that the children as the most source of happiness. Harari says that this is an irony or paradox. So, even though we may feel that raising a child is unpleasant, people like that process. Probably, this is dependent upon our views of life. The happiness will be coming from seeing our life as a whole, not individual unpleasant moments. A meaningful life can be happy even when in hardships. Similarly, meaningless life will be a real ordeal even if it is comfortable. See, this is a very important statement in the whole. See, what can be the reason? What can be the reason uh, the parents feel that raising a child uh, makes them happy, even though it is sometimes unpleasant? The reason is this: when we raise a child, we take it as a very meaningful activity in our life. A meaningful life can be happy even when in hardships, even when you are suffering hardships. If it is meaningful, you will accept it as pleasant. Similarly, meaningless life, you are living a comfortable life, and if it is meaningless, it will be a real ordeal. It will be a real test for you. So that is a very important statement. That is a quotable statement. You can quote it somewhere. Medieval people, people of middle age, lived a hard life, but they believed in the promise of happiness in the afterlife. So in middle age, people believed strongly in the afterlife. This made them believe that their life is meaningful than the lives of modern people. So we can say that medieval people were happier than us. From a scientific viewpoint, human life has no meaning at all. Humans are the result of ongoing uh, evolution process. Meaning attributed to life is nothing but delusion. From a scientific delusion means a false belief. So the concept of meaningful life, meaning that we discussed in the previous paragraph. The medieval people, people of middle ages, believed they were strong religious people, but their life was in misery. But what made them feel that their life is meaningful is the happiness in the afterlife. They believed in that. But scientific viewpoint says that human life has no particular meaning. Human beings are result of evolution process. So if we feel that life is meaningless, it can be it can be really a hardship. Scientist says life is meaningful because he increases the store of human knowledge. Soldier may feel that life is meaningful because he is defending his homeland. A businessman finds meaning in the success of his business. These are ways how a modern man finds meaning in life. In fact, this is same as medieval man's way of achieving meaning by means of building a cathedral, or by reading religious scriptures, or fighting wars for religion, etc. So whichever may be the period, there will be certain things which make man feel that the life is meaningful or not. Modern people also feel that life is meaningful. For example, scientists feel that his life is meaningful because he is collecting information, human knowledge. Then soldier feels that his life is meaningful because he is defending his homeland. Businessman finds his business successful, and thus he feels that his life is meaningful, like that. So medieval people believed in afterlife, and they found it meaningful. And similarly, there are reasons for the modern man to feel that his life is meaningful. So, happiness will be connecting our personal beliefs with the collective beliefs. Happiness will be connecting. If you connect your personal beliefs and your collective beliefs, if both bring you happiness, then in total you will be happy. If your personal belief is in tune with, is joining with the beliefs of people around you, you feel that your life is meaningful and happy. This is an important statement. You can look into your life and see whether this is correct or wrong. നിങ്ങളുടെ വ്യക്തിപരമായ ബിലീഫുകൾ, നിങ്ങളുടെ വ്യക്തിപരമായ ചിന്തകൾ കാഴ്ചപ്പാടുകൾ നിങ്ങൾക്ക് ചുറ്റുമുള്ളവരുടെ കാഴ്ചപ്പാടുകളുമായിട്ട് യോജിച്ച് പോകുന്നുവെങ്കിൽ നിങ്ങളുടെ ലൈഫിന് മീനിങ് ഉണ്ടെന്ന് നിങ്ങൾക്ക് തോന്നും, നിങ്ങൾക്ക് സന്തോഷവും ഉണ്ടാവും. നിങ്ങളുടെ ഫാമിലിക്കകത്തെ കാര്യം തന്നെ എടുത്താൽ മതി. നിങ്ങളുടെ സ്വന്തം ബിലീഫും നിങ്ങളുടെ കുടുംബത്തിൻ്റെ ബിലീഫും ബാക്കിയുള്ളവരുടെ ബിലീഫും തമ്മിൽ ഒന്നിച്ച് പോകുന്നുണ്ടെങ്കിൽ യു മേ ഫീൽ ദാറ്റ് life is meaningful and happy. Harari says that this concluding observation is not in fact a happy one. So, but that is an observation, that is something, that is a fact. So, the main points that we discuss in page number 91 is that happiness comes from understanding if life is meaningful or not. Happiness comes from understanding if life is meaningful or not. A meaningful life can be happy even when in hardships. Similarly, a meaningless life will be a real ordeal even if it is comfortable. If your personal belief is in tune with the belief of people around you, you feel that your life is meaningful and happy. Dystopian novel I have said already, and there is a word called drudgery. In the text, drudgery means dull. The word is used in connection with rearing, raising children. Raising children can be sometimes dull. So we have come to the end of the chapter. Hope you understood the chemical happiness and the meaning of life. Thank you.